The Untold Legacy of the Cheyenne Dog Soldiers, the tale of the tribes on the American plains during the 17th and 18th centuries, is written in the blood of both the warriors and their enemies in these trying times. The native people of the plains had to adapt quickly to survive the relentless waves of conflict brought on by the encroaching settlers. Among these fierce defenders of their land, one group stands out: the Cheyenne Dog Soldiers. This band of warriors, known for drawing their strength from their connection with dogs, were legendary for fighting to the very last breath, never retreating in the face of danger. In today's story, we delve into the Cheyenne Dog Soldiers' tenacious struggle against both American settlers and the forces of time, as they sought to preserve their way of life and the traditions passed down through generations. Of all the tribes on the plains, the Cheyennes were infamous for their resilience. Despite often being outnumbered, they were formidable adversaries when battling other tribes. And when it came to defending against European invaders, no tribe was as hard to defeat as the Cheyenne. The Cheyenne, like many of their neighboring tribes, were natural warriors, and they organized themselves into various societies. These groups were more than just fighting units. They were fraternal military and semi-religious organizations that adhered to strict dress codes and drew their origins from revered cultural heroes. Each society had its own mythology, shaping its structure and values. Among these societies, the Cheyenne Dog Soldiers stood as the most renowned. The story of the Dog Soldiers' origins, as recounted by George A. Dorsey in the Cheyenne Ceremonial Organization 1905, speaks of a young man with no notable influence, who was chosen by the great prophet. This young man, despite being ridiculed for his lack of power, was determined to form a society. One day, he walked through the camp announcing his intent, but no one joined him. Disheartened, he prayed to the great prophet, asking for guidance. As dusk fell, he began to sing a sacred song. Soon, the camp's dogs started to whine and howl in response, and the people fell asleep in their lodges. Singing until midnight, the young man eventually left the camp, with all the dogs following him. They traveled to a river bottom, where the dogs formed a semicircle around him and lay down mysteriously. A lodge appeared above the man and the dogs. The dogs entered the lodge, transforming into human warriors dressed as members of the Dog Soldier Society. For 3 days, the young man learned their songs, ceremonies, and ways of fighting. The Dog Soldiers blessed him, promising that he and his society would become the greatest if he followed their teachings. The following day, the people of the Cheyenne camp noticed the miraculous transformation of the dogs into warriors, and feeling remorse for mocking the young man, eagerly joined his society. Thus the Dog Soldiers came into being, modeling themselves after the dog spirits and embracing the strength and resilience of these creatures. The Dog Soldiers earned a fearsome reputation for their prowess and bravery, never backing down even in the direst of situations. With this reputation solidified, they played vital roles within the Cheyenne tribe. They were not just warriors, but also ritual dancers, responsible for over 400 songs and ceremonies. In addition to their military role, they maintained order within the tribe, serving as enforcers who ensured the laws and customs were upheld. The Dog Soldiers had special privileges, such as the right to slaughter a fat dog for ceremonial feasts, and they were entrusted with punishing wrongdoers. For minor offenses, they might destroy a man's robe or break his lodge poles, but for more severe crimes, they could whip offenders, beat them, or even kill their ponies. They also ensured fair distribution of resources after hunts, preventing individuals from overhunting. Once the tribe's needs were met, much of what we know about the Dog Soldiers comes from accounts like those found in George Bird Grinnell's The Fighting Cheyennes 1916. These stories reveal a group of warriors deeply committed to their people, their land, and their traditions, with a legacy that still inspires reverence today. By 1840, the Dog Soldiers had gained so much prominence that even the Cheyenne chiefs left it to them to decide whether peace would be established among the Cheyenne, Kiowa, Comanche, and Apache tribes. This was after the skirmish in 1838 between these groups. The Dog Soldiers brokered the peace, and remarkably, it has remained unbroken to this day. In 1852, following a devastating clash with the Pawnee, The families of the fallen warriors brought offerings to the Dog Soldiers, urging them to continue the fight. Though the Dog Soldiers prepared for battle, they soon realized the enemy was heavily fortified and well-armed, leading to a strategic retreat. True to the teachings of their tribal cultural hero, they believed that mingling with the white men would only bring harm to their people. In 1860, they refused to sign the treaty proposed by the Commissioner of Indian Affairs at Bent's Fort, steadfast in their resolve to avoid life on a reservation. In response to the horrific Sand Creek Massacre, where unarmed and peaceful Native people were brutally slaughtered by Colorado volunteers, the Dog Soldiers launched raids along the Platte River. In 1865, they played a crucial role in joining forces with the Southern and Northern Cheyenne and the Oglala Sioux, forming a formidable group of nearly 3,000 men. Together they raided the Platte Bridge, where their strategic moves led to a triumphant victory, thanks in part to their renowned leader, Romang Nose. Despite repeated attempts to confine the Cheyenne, the Dog Soldiers remained resolute, choosing to stay free rather than submit to life on a reservation. During a period of peace, the clumsy efforts of General Winfield Hancock hindered the chance for a treaty between the Dog Soldiers and the U.S. government, the general seeking to negotiate only with Romang Nose, a skilled warrior but not a chief, missed his opportunity, and despite his large force of 1,400 men, Hancock managed to kill only 2 hostile Indians in months of campaigning. In 1874, the Dog Soldiers finally surrendered after their defeat by the Buffalo Hunters at Adobe Walls, Texas. The Southern Cheyenne village was captured, and Whitehorse, along with the remaining Dog Soldiers, laid down their weapons. This marked the end of the Dog Soldiers' military might as it had been known. However, their spirit reemerged when the Northern Cheyenne, displaced to Indian territory, sought to reunite their people on a single reservation. The Northern Cheyenne, originally from Montana, found the harsh conditions in Oklahoma unbearable. Many died from inadequate medical supplies and rations, as well as from the drastic change in climate. After enduring a year of suffering, they resolved to fight their way back north. Led by Little Wolf, their escape was successful, and they held their ground for about a year, until General Nelson Miles convinced them to surrender. Meanwhile, a group of Dog Soldiers, including Tangle Hair, broke away and followed Dull Knife. They were captured and imprisoned at Fort Robinson, where they refused to return south for 8 long days. The officer in charge starved them. On the 8th day, they attempted a desperate escape. A third of them, including Tangle Hair, were killed in the effort. He died standing firm, ensuring that the women and children had time to flee. The Cheyenne Dog Soldiers played many vital roles in the structure of their tribe. Their fierce battles and tragic fate are stories we must not forget, as they serve as a reminder of the strength and courage of the Native people who once thrived on this land. Before the arrival of the settlers, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video. For more discussions on history like this, subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts in the comments below.